Selinsgrove Center in 1972. And 2 years later, we moved to Laurelton, so I transferred to Laurelton. And as an aide, worked in Glover at the hospital, Lynn, McClure, basically wherever they needed you. It was so different in those days. I was young, I was in my early 20s, but there were people that had been working there for years. And when we started the family, I then quit, and that was in '78. So, but we stayed in the area, and it became part of our lives. We drove by it every day, driving back and forth to Penn State, and we lived on Route 45, where at that time we had residents who were allowed to be on their own, walking down to Peg Smith's, which was a little cafe. So we lived right next to it, we had residents sitting on our porch all the time and walking up the middle of the road, and it was a time of freedom for the residents who were allowed to do as they pleased. But my working there was a great experience, and prior to living on 45, we lived in Laurelton itself, and it was a time you did grow attached to residents. And Bill and I had one of the little boys from the hospital overnight, for a weekend, that we came home with us. You'd never be able to do that now. But it was a nice facility. It was a great place to work, and a lot of invested people. So.
And the home.
It wasn't just a job, it was our home, and we just didn't go home from work. We took the kids to individuals home with us,
When you said I work at Laurelton Center, or at that time, Laurelton State School and Hospital, it was pride. So,
Even the home we lived in on Route 45 was built by Sam Rambo, who was one of the carpenters at Laurelton Center.
So I think it seems like everybody who lived in Laurelton, Millmont area had some type of connection to Laurelton Center.
A lot of connections. I never worked for the state school. I worked at the state school for Servamation as a cleaning person in probably '72. I made $1.90 an hour. As a child, I was born in the bar. As a child, my parents had what's now the Boomerang Spruce Run Inn. We had some apartments and motel rooms in the back. Dolly Crater stayed in the motel. She ran the dairy barn.
I live in back of Boomerang, which is a trailer. Well,
Okay.
not trailer, it's kind of an expanded thing. You know where it is.
Sharon, she was Schwab at the time. She worked up there, lived in one of the apartments. As a child, a lot of my childhood friends were customers of the bar who worked at the state school in one way or another. I knew a Lester Kerstetter from Laurelton. He would pick me up on a Saturday night, and I'd sit in the balcony and watch him thread the film to run the movies. My now late son-in-law's dad ran the heat plant, and grandfather ran the hog farm. My grandfather on my father's side was at one time maintenance superintendent in Laurelton. So there's a lot of ties. Probably go on and on, I can't remember them all.
What is your name?
Weiler. My grandfather that worked there in maintenance was Elmer Blyler. That was a long time ago. We had, as well as Texas, we had residents walk down there, as well as a lot of employees.